Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a horror film from the United States, English language, released in the year 2019, directed by Chris von Hoffman, and this film is called Monster Party. So Monster Party is about three friends, they're thieves, and one of them also works as a waitress. Now she's employed by this woman who's very rich, she owns a luxurious mansion, and on this particular evening the three friends are going to get together and they're actually going to try and rob this woman. Now the reason why is because one of the friends, his father has been kept by a strip club owner. The strip club owner is very powerful and very dangerous, and he tells the son that if he can't come up with the money to save his father, the father is going to suffer horrible consequences. And so desperate times call for desperate measures, and this waitress woman says that okay, if they can give the impression that they're waiters, they can go in there, she knows where the safe is, it shouldn't be too complicated. So this is what they prepare for, and on this night, when this night arrives, they go into the mansion, they fool everyone into thinking that they're actually working there, but then as the night progresses they realise that the guests who were invited to this party are far more sinister than they could ever have imagined, and the night is going to go from bad to worse. So when things spiral out of control, a lot of danger is going to be around every corner, and what that danger is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Monster Party. This was a satisfactory experience, and so it is definitely a movie that is what you see is what you get. If you want a movie that's going to be a no-brain sort of popcorn horror film that you can have fun on a Friday night with a group of friends and some beers, then this movie is definitely going to be sufficient. But if you want something a little bit more that's going to last the test of time, that's going to make you remember it in a few days after you've finished watching the movie, then this is definitely not for you. It just doesn't have that memorable quality to make it a movie that's very exciting. It didn't really make me feel very excited. There are moments I thought were okay, but unfortunately it is run-of-the-mill pedestrian stuff, and so that is a criticism I have of it. But on the other hand, it doesn't try to be anything else but a run-of-the-mill sort of disposable horror film, and so for that the self-awareness allows you to enjoy it for what it is for an hour and 30 minutes. It's definitely a movie you could do a lot worse with, but unfortunately I just thought as though there was a lackluster quality to it, and that's something I'll go into a little bit later. But what I liked about Monster Party is that it's an insane film, and the insane characters, the caricature sort of atmosphere that the director creates is down through the visuals. I thought it was a very offbeat sort of feel that the film had. It felt like it was a different dimension. You've got the characters who interact with each other that I thought was a little bit different, and I thought that the dinner guests were fantastic, is that they were larger than life, or they were psychos. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what they're all about, but when the situation starts to spiral out of control, it does get fairly brutal, and I thought the brutality, it works in some places, and unfortunately the editing does let it down in other places. But I thought the roller coaster of brutality and insanity, it was enough to sustain my interest from start to finish without me looking at my watch and wondering when this is going to finish. And so a lot of movies aren't able to do that, and I think Chris von Hoffman does it in a way that the simplicity allows you to actually enjoy what's going on without using your brain too much. So you've got a cast that I thought was actually quite recognisable. You've got Robin Tunney, Julian McMahon, who's in fact Australian, and also Lance Reddick. And so it was good to see they were in this film, and their characters, as I said, they're larger than life caricature, but they don't really give a performance that's going to stand the test of time. And unfortunately that's the problem with the whole film, is that it doesn't stand the test of time. It doesn't really poke its head out and create a shadow of its own. And so it's a movie that if you see it, you're going to be glad that you saw it, and you're going to say, okay, well that was a decent way to spend an hour and 30 minutes. But unfortunately, decent is as far as you'll go. It's not a movie you're going to replay. It's not a movie that you're going to say, you have to see this movie. You're going to basically tell that to everyone around you. It doesn't have that lasting effect. It doesn't have that quality. And I think that is down to the simplicity that the film has. And so there also has some issues with the editing. Now, I thought this movie had a potential to be a little bit different from the kills. Now, it does threaten to be a very brutal film, and there are some very brutal moments, but unfortunately the editing gets in the way of that brutality, and I thought for a movie of this simplistic nature, it needed really memorable kills, and unfortunately there were some kills that just weren't that memorable, is that you've seen them in horror films before. And so this movie, although it does have a very strange look, although it does have a very impressive production, I couldn't help but feel is that, okay, it wants to separate itself and cast cast a shadow of its own, but there are other glimpses of other horror films that have clearly inspired it, that it just can't really break free of that, and it can't break the barrier and make that shadow of its own, make a film that is exciting. I just thought as though, alright, well, it's not a very scary film at all. I thought the comedic aspect of this movie, apparently it was supposed to be a horror comedy, didn't really think the comedic aspect worked. Yes, it does have a light-hearted feel to it because, yeah, it has a caricature nature, and the psychos in the film, I thought, okay, they were fairly decent, but as I said earlier, decent is as far as you will go with this film, and that is ultimately the problem of it, is the simplicity does get in the way to some degree. Yes, it's self-aware, but I thought as though if it just broke the barrier a little bit more and wanted to basically flex its muscle a little bit more, it could have made it a film that you'd go back and watch time and time again. But unfortunately, it just has that lackluster quality mixed in with some impressive qualities as well. So for that, yeah, you could do a lot worse, but unfortunately it's a movie that you'd watch once and you forget in a few days' time. So it is a disposable horror film, but it's a horror film that I believe you won't be disappointed you actually took the time to watch, and for that I'm going to give Monster Party 2.5 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching movies, and I'll see you later.